1, 2, 3, 4.
Meditate. I mean, do you find people saying that?
Yeah, lots of people say that. The first thing, to be in the present moment, you're already in it. So that doesn't take any extra time. But you just got to realise you're in it. So, you know, if you're making a cup of tea, actually try making the cup of tea rather than doing it as a means to an end. If you're walking to it, let's use an example of going to a meeting. So if someone's walking to a meeting, on the way to the walk to the meeting, it may be an external walk. On that time when they're walking down, all that's happening in their head is they're preparing themselves for the meeting. Who's going to be in there, what they've got to say, all this, that, and the other, all going on. Maybe a little bit about what's going on later in the day. Anyway, eventually they get into the meeting, sit down. They're not even there now. They're already next. They're moving on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, constantly going into a future that's a figment of their imagination. So being in the present moment takes you no extra time. Paying attention to making a cup of tea, pay attention to that walk, listen to the birds sing, listen to, watch the scenery, see people, like really see them. That takes no extra time.
I go out onto that pitch, I provide an environment for them before, during and after, for them to feel comfortable in challenging me, in being a part of that game, and really kind of buy into the flow of what's happening with that game as well. So the last thing I want to do is kind of go out there and nobody really knows where we are, how we're pitching ourselves. So it's for me to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm looking for, this is where I'm going with it, and this is how I want you to come along with me, and this is how I'm going to make that happen as well. And so it's really kind of taking those people on that journey, creating that followership, and really kind of creating that environment. People are comfortable with challenge, and we're comfortable in challenging each other as well. So that goes from me to them and them to me.
As a man, it's a catch-22. Do you hit a woman and then everyone in the gym is looking at you crazy because you just you tried to, knock her out?
Yeah.
Or do you get hit really badly by a woman and then what happens then,
You can't win then, really, can you?
You can't win, exactly. So I definitely understand why a lot of boys don't necessarily like sparring girls, because they just feel like they're in a lose-lose situation. But yeah, I mean, I've been in situations where I've been in a gym, not my gym, like I go to other gyms and the boys will be like, do we have to spar her? They're not saying it, but you can see it in their eyes. But, when they get in the room with me, then they realize I'm actually a live wire. So they can't just stand there, and you get your respect that way. I don't mind it. I'm quite used to it, to be honest. So I just get on with it. But yeah, at my club, it's, everyone respects each other. Everyone knows that we all can punch. So you better get your head out of the way or you're definitely going to get hit clean for sure.
So I've gone from PE teaching at 31 to England head coach at 41, which is a hell of a jump. But,
yeah.
But I felt ready at the time because of the support I've been given by my mentors, by the RFU, and by my own personal mindset to want to grow and stretch myself as a coach and a leader.
Do you think it came too soon, Stuart?
No, I don't. No. I mean, people always remember the outcome. The outcome was we lost a game against Wales when we were 22-12 up, and I lost my job. But if you go back through the process and the situation that I inherited, there was no CEO at the RFU when I started as head coach. There was no chairman. The board was dysfunctional. There'd been a report leaked. Martin Johnson had just resigned. Club and country relations that were rock bottom. Commercial partners were walking away.
Yeah.
It was a very tough job to go into, but I felt the improvements we made during the 4 years. We won 4 games out of 5 every 6 nations. We beat New Zealand. So we brought a lot of young players through who are now 50, 60, 70, 80 caps, England players who got to a World Cup final in 2019. Obviously, that you look back, with things that you might do differently or things how you might have handled things differently. I don't think any leader wouldn't do that.
And I'm really curious because you just explained this, and it's really fascinating stuff about feedback. You've just come back off a sortie, you've been shot at. How fast were you travelling on those in the tornado?
You're travelling probably between 500 to 600 miles an hour at that point.
Okay, and so you had some G-force when you were evading the...
Yeah, a lot of G-force. I mean, for the tornado, not as much as some aircraft, but it's often heavily loaded up with weapons. But you could be pulling up to probably 4G at that time, so not masses.
Are you kind of blacking out at that point, or is that?
No.
Okay.
So you have a G-suit that you wear,
Okay.
which basically is an inflatable bladder that goes onto your legs. And whenever you pull G-force on the aircraft, the bladder automatically inflates and it compresses your blood vessels in your legs, and it keeps the blood up in your upper half of your body, i.e. brain, so that you don't black out.